Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Unknown Hobo. I'm your host, Marlon Mahabier, and it's actually currently July 7th, 2020, and we're going to be talking about 2 to 3 topics currently. We're going to be talking about Apple's new chipset and them actually announcing a timeline for their transition process. TikTok looks like it's planning to withdraw from Hong Kong, facing a new law that's actually been released, and the fact that Juneteenth is looking like it might become a big deal, but we're not really sure. So if you're going to be talking about Apple as a whole, for the past few years, yes, they've been talking about having their own chipset be released for their products, which makes complete sense when you look at iOS or iPadOS, which for everybody else is just your phone and your iPads. They have their own chipset for that, so it logically makes sense for them to release their own silicone chip for their MacBooks, just so they can make the whole Apple universe work so much better together, which is one of the features they actually been talking about. They wanted to make everything just work so much better together, which makes sense, especially if you have something that's somebody that's older, or even if you have someone that's younger that's somehow scared of the internet. The transition process from one to the other should be a little bit smoother. So that's the hope. And one thing that was mentioned that really didn't really make sense to me why this even needs to be mentioned, because it should be a given, is that they plan to offer support for all like the pro software when it switches to the new silicone chip. Now I'm thinking, why would you not support your old software? But you never know. It's all a marketing thing. It's just another feature that you're supposed to already have that they're saying, hey, you're gonna get it this time, boys, let's go. So we'll see what happens with that, which I think is a very good idea. Now, until that point, because currently they say it's gonna take around 2 years for the transition process to take effect. So until then, it looks like they're still going to be using Intel-based processor chips, which is cool. I mean, it's expected. They're not going to randomly just stop. But as far as Apple switching over to their own silicone chips and the effect it might have on Intel, yes, I think it might hurt their bottom line a little bit, but I don't think it'll hurt it as much as some people might think. Because at the end of the day, if you go to any retail chain store, or even just go on Amazon or go on Google and look up a computer randomly, if you just randomly point at a computer, there's a good chance that computer is going to be an Intel-based processor. Like there is a very, very good chance that's what you're going to pick. So they're not messing with their market share when it comes to everything else as a whole. If Apple decided, you know what, we're making our own silicone chips and we're going to sell them by themselves at an affordable value, that would be crazy, because at the end of the day, right now, it's like if you go to a regular retail store, if you go online, who are you going to buy processors from? Either AMD or Intel. And that's about it. Now, if Apple like threw itself into the mix, that would be crazy. Because now if it actually came in with a competitive price, it would be a reputable company coming in with their own processor chips. And then that would drive pricings probably down because there's now more competition as far as the processors go. But I don't really see that happening because I don't think any Windows product, especially like a Surface, you're not going to see a Surface with like an Apple processor in there. If you do, that'll be crazy. So I don't think that's going to happen. So as far as the actual independent processors themselves, I don't think Intel as a whole is going to get a big hit or even maybe even a slightly hit from that. So I think they're going to be perfectly fine. AMD, they're okay. They're not doing anything with it. It doesn't mean anything to them, at least from my understanding. As far as all that stuff goes, then yeah, it's really cool because Apple's now releasing their own chipset. So that's fine. That's golden. So if we're going to be moving over to more current events, or well, not really current because this happened last month, speaking about Juneteenth. So I'm not originally from America, if some of you guys already know that. So there's a lot of things that happen here that I do keep up with American history. I do try to learn a lot more about things that's going on here. And in all honesty, this was my first time ever hearing of Juneteenth, which after I did a very light research about it, because my thing is, if it's something I need to learn and it's something I need to speak on it, I'm only going to speak on a very light review on it, unless it's something I really need to go super in depth. Yes, I went super in depth about the product, but I want to be able to speak on if a regular person just Googled this. Now I could talk about specific timeframes, who did this, who did what, doesn't really make sense. Because if a regular person just Googles it, that's what makes the impact on it. So if you go on Google, let's say Black History Month, like the first thing you'll find out about Black History Month, yes, it was created to celebrate things that's happened in Black history, but you find out it was actually picked out because it was specifically like Abraham Lincoln's birthday month and Frederick Douglass' birthday month, along with a few other people. So we're just celebrating somebody's birthday? I mean, yes, you can say, well, we're celebrating this, but it's also the reason that it was picked wasn't a super significance besides being somebody's birthday. So that's where I think Juneteenth kind of fills a very good gap. And it actually, at least from my outside perspective, has a bigger effect than probably all of Black History Month. And the only reason why I say that is let's look at 4th of July. So if you take 4th of July, what does everybody do on 4th of July? They might go barbecuing. They might eat some extra food. There's going to be a ton of fireworks. Even if you don't do it, you're going to hear a ton of fireworks and you're going to know why you're hearing those fireworks. If you hear fireworks during Black History Month, okay, somebody just randomly throwing off fireworks. And if you see somebody barbecuing, you might think it's somebody's birthday. I mean, technically it's like a birthday month, but like that's what a lot of people are going to end up thinking when they see things happen in February. They're not going to see, oh, I know what that person is doing it for. They're celebrating Black History Month. I mean, if they do, I don't. Like when I see people having barbecue, I don't think they're celebrating Black History Month. I always think it's something else. Let's take, like I said, 4th of July and not compare to Juneteenth. If we celebrated Juneteenth with even a tenth of the veracity of 4th of July, where it's one day, everybody shoots off some fireworks on there. If they're having a barbecue on that day, guess what? Somebody's going to know what that barbecue is about. Yes, it could be somebody's birthday, but it's like, okay, they're having a barbecue, it's Juneteenth. Oh yeah, there's fireworks shooting up. Oh yeah, because it's Juneteenth. Makes sense. And the reason why I bring that up as in such a simple way is because like nobody really realizes the fact that all us adults can know all the significance of every holiday. We can know why specifically this thing was picked out, that thing was picked out. Yes, we know exactly what time this flag was planted here. We know exactly when this document was signed. That's golden for us. Yeah, we know a ton. But the way things become more popular and more widespread is how easy it is for children or little kids to associate with it. Now, if you use Christmas, Valentine's Day, 4th of July, maybe not Cinco de Mayo, that pops up later in life, but if we use those primary holidays and Thanksgiving, I almost forgot that. If we use those holidays as a whole and how simple we can compress them down to where a little kid that probably doesn't even know how to like count to 50 or even 20 or maybe even 10, you never know. A kid that young knows what those days are for. And you're able to explain what those days are for in 1 or 2 sentences. That I think would be the goal. And that is so much more powerful than coming up and saying, hey, we're celebrating Black History Month because this happened and then this happened and then this happened and this happened. This little kid's going to be like, oh, okay, we're celebrating Black History Month because people did things. Like that's what kids are going to think. I mean, there might be some that might absorb it, but imagine Juneteenth. It's a specific thing. We're celebrating the emancipation of the slaves. A little kid, they know about it, like, oh, Juneteenth, oh, that's the day slaves got freed. 1 sentence. Actually, I don't know if that's even a sentence fragment. I have no idea. I'm linguistically challenged. Forgive me. So it being that simple and kids being able to learn it, which means kids are going to learn it and they're going to pass it on to their kids. And then more kids are going to learn it as a whole. Because everybody celebrates 4th of July. Even people that don't have any idea what 4th of July technically is for, they know it exists and they're going to find out what it is. The same thing with Christmas. Same thing with Thanksgiving. People know what they're for. Even if they don't fully understand what they're for, they have a somewhat of an idea. I'm going to be honest, I never heard of Juneteenth before this year, but I'm hoping that it continues past this year. Actually, not even past this year, past next year. Because the thing is, people forget very easily. And we can always say, well, I'm not going to forget. Yeah, that's cool if you're not going to forget. But the goal should be to get as many people to remember simple things. Because the simpler it is to remember, the more people are going to remember it. So I personally think Juneteenth has a bigger effect than Black History Month, purely based on the fact it's information overload. Like kids have to write essays during Black History Month on a random person that they have to select. They absorb that information. Some of them might remember it. Some of them won't. They'll forget. Juneteenth, you can have kids write those same essays during that week and have them turn them in. It's the exact same thing. And we go from there. So I think that's as much I'm going to pretty much say about Juneteenth. I think it's a very powerful day because it's a call to action for a lot of people. Same way 4th of July is a call to action. Same way Christmas is a call to action. Same way Valentine's Day is a call to action. All of them are call to actions because they're a specific day for a specific thing, and stuff's going to happen, and we all know what's going to happen. Valentine's Day, you're going to give a gift. Well, I'm not going to get a gift. Maybe. I don't know if I'm lucky. Christmas, you're going to give gifts. You might get some gifts. You might get nothing. But you know it's a gift giving season. Thanksgiving, you know not to wear your belt or wear some stretchy pants. Like, it's a given. 4th of July, fireworks, barbecue, lots of eating, spend some time with your family. Get Juneteenth to that point where it's a given. We know what's going to happen. We know what it's for. That, I think, would be a very good goal, and it's pretty easy because you just have to continue doing what you're doing to celebrate on that day. Even if it's just your family, it's golden. Now, outside of Juneteenth, even though I said that twice already, let's go over the actual TikTok and what's been going on with that. Now, there's been apparently a law that's been imposed in China, which is a national security law. And right now, a lot of these Silicon Valley companies, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Google, have pretty much suspended their operations in some regions so they can actually review this law a little bit closely. And this is the reason why is because there's been a request for like users' personal information, which I can understand being a problem when governments are trying to get users' information. Now, the defending argument, from my understanding, is it's a fight against cyber threat, terrorism, and a few other things. Well, as of right now, which is said, from my understanding, here in the US government has actually banned TikTok from being on all US government devices. And it's being treated as a national security threat, which logically makes sense. I'd rather them do that and treat it as a threat and be safe, and then find out later it isn't, and then it can install it back. Now, if there's somebody out there complaining about, well, I want to use my TikTok, cool, install it on your own phone. I mean, I don't use TikTok. I see it all over the place. It's not really my thing, but I know what it is. But like the big thing outside of TikTok is the fact that, did I say TikTok? TikTok. I don't know why I said TikTok. It's not like I'm like 90. So the big thing outside of TikTok is the fact that Google has suspended its operation in some regions. Now, to what extent that suspension is a big thing, because if it means like Android phones won't have access to the Play Store, or people won't have access to Google as a whole, that's a big thing, and people will be severely upset. Now, I don't think it might be that severe of a actual withdrawal or suspension of their operations, but you never know. Now, I can only assume, like, if these big companies are suspending their operations to a very big extent, then that's going to have a domino effect and should generally affect the laws for whatever country you're in, if those laws are trying to be implemented in them in some way or another. We'll see what happens with that. Now, outside of that, that's pretty much the episode for today, guys. Please make sure you keep up to date. Subscribe to this if you like to. I do have my new YouTube page that I'm actually putting out. I'll be putting up some reaction videos from some other content that I didn't really have time to put on here on the podcast because it's more live. And then we actually have my other YouTube channel, which I'll be posting some of my podcast episodes on there and maybe a few behind the scenes clips. Besides that, I will see you guys next week, unless I get super impatient and want to put an episode up earlier, but I'll see you later.